Kyle, picture a workplace where the rule book has been tossed out the window. The eject button has been hit, and innovation isn't just encouraged, it is expected. That is the environment Netflix cultivated, turning the traditional corporate hierarchy on its head, flipping the script. And guess what? They didn't just stream movies, they streamed a new way of thinking. Now, Kyle, imagine applying that same radical autonomy and radical responsibility to your team. And what if instead of micromanaging, you empowered your teammates to make bold decisions? What if instead of clinging to outdated policies, you fostered a culture that thrives on trust and transparency? In this episode, my man, we are going to cannonball into the deep end of how to build a culture where creativity is not just a fancy buzzword, a feel-good word in your content or your Google Docs. It is the baseline standard. And we're going to explore actionable strategies to infuse your organization with the kind of innovative spirit that propelled Netflix to global dominance. Get ready, get fired up to challenge the status quo today and unlock your team's creative potential. And Reed Hastings, I'm going to read it. Reed would say, don't seek to please your boss, seek to do what is best for the company. So, Kyle, let's get to unpacking the principles that transformed culture and inspired Netflix's journey from DVD rentals to a streaming giant, and discuss how to balance a little freedom with responsibility, foster a little radical candor, and build a team that's not just efficient, but also endlessly creative, my man.
Now, first off, if you haven't seen the Netflix culture deck, please hit stop, and immediately go and look it up. It is an exceptional 125 slides in a deck that tells the raw truth about how Netflix team would work, about how they would operate and communicate with one another. It's direct, it's uncomfortable, and was game-changing. Like it was just so different from the status quo when you think about what people are putting down in their culture decks. So there's absolutely no fluff, no fake values, just a system designed for bold ideas, fast moves, and real ownership. They built a culture designed to unleash creativity. So here are just a couple of examples that are in the deck, okay? Adequate performance gets a generous severance. Adequate performance gets generous severance. You see what they're saying there? Adequate means show you to the door.
That eject button yet again.
We're a team, not a family. There's different rules. We're a team, not a family. Freedom and responsibility over process and rules. 3 examples there. And what emerged from this culture deck was a system where smart risks were rewarded. Candor was normalized, and creative ownership became the norm. So let's break down those 3 cultural keys that made creativity not just possible, but just ultimately foundational for all the amazing things that Netflix has done. First, creative ownership. So most companies really micromanage because they don't trust their people. Like, I'm not getting out of you what I think I should, so I'm going to squeeze down on you, and I'm going to provide more guardrails. And Netflix just flipped the script. They trusted first. There's no vacation policy. There's no approval chains. There's no tracking hours. Instead, they just hired adults to do adult work, and they empowered that. The employee understands that they're not here just to do a job, right? They're here to own their outcomes. And when people own their outcomes, that's when they do their best work, because they care. They're invested in it. Okay, the second key is radical candor needs to be the default, not the exception. That Netflix did is they just engineered brutal honesty into the bloodstream of the company. Everyone was expected to give candid feedback early and often. It was really important that there was no waiting till like the next review cycle. If you're a leader giving some feedback, it needs to happen in real time, as close to the incident as possible, with the assumption that growth always matters more than comfort. So it is important that we step into discomfort to be honest with our team. When candor is the norm, your team gets fired up because every conversation becomes a chance to grow. And people like growth. They like being treated like adult and having honest feedback. And so in this environment, the best ideas rise and the bad ones get killed fast because there's honest dialogue going on. And because of that, creative momentum is going to build. The third key is smart risks are a feature, not a flaw. So at most companies, failure gets punished. So people play it safe. If you're going to get punished for failing, you're definitely going to play it safe. You're not going to go out there and try and do something new or original creative. But at Netflix, safe became the risk. So they didn't necessarily reward recklessness, but they did celebrate bold, well-reasoned bets because they knew that's where breakthroughs live. Netflix culture dictated that if you can make a smart case for something, then we've got your back. Even if you might fail, we will have your back if you're going to go for something that's potentially a failure. So that kind of trust really does something special. It frees people to think bigger. It'll help your people move faster and really build things that are going to change the game for you and your organization. On the flip side, if you punish failure, you kill initiative and you stifle creativity. Punchline here is Netflix really created a place where creativity could thrive. And in doing so, they built a system where the team always brought the most ambitious versions of themselves to work. And that's what you want.
Yeah. So powerful, man. Autonomy, trust is just absolutely game changing when it comes to culture. And one thing it also right there at the end made me think about it, like having your back if you're failing or things aren't going your way is George Raveline said something that has stuck with me. And as a leader, he's like, I'm going to be there for you, Kyle, when you're losing, but not when you're winning. And what he meant by that, I'm going to be there for you when you need me most. And when you're winning on top of your game, you don't need me. And so I think that is so powerful as a leader to be there when your team is failing. I want to share something that I have a little bit of experience with as it comes to leading a creative team, and which also is a good reflection of culture. And I have to confess here on the show today is that I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not a filmmaker. I am not a creative by trade or practitioner. But Kyle, when I launched Lead Media, I knew one thing is if I was going to lead a team of creatives, I had to lead with trust. And I could not lead with some boilerplate templates. And that's exactly what I did. I led with 100% trust from the jump. We didn't have a blueprint, but we probably actually had a lot of bad ideas, mainly from me, of course, and good ideas, of course, from the teams, the true creatives that are so smart and exceptional what they did. And I would come into the team huddle, I'd be fired up, man. I'm like, let's fucking go. Maybe too much caffeine, maybe just too much optimism and gratitude from the morning and the workout. But I'd be like, hey, you know what? This is probably gonna be a horrible idea, but what if we did a docu-series on the 4 North project, and we were going to shoot it in one trip? It's going to be raw, and it's going to be unscripted. No? Okay. Well, yeah, probably a bad idea. It was a bad idea. 9 times out of 10, sure. But that really wasn't the point. It was more so, hey, from one idea, one little spark, good, bad, or ugly, something special could probably grow from that, come out of that when you have the right people in the right seat and you're playing to their strengths. In other words, you have the right team put together. Because what will they do? Well, I'm glad you asked. They're going to grab that. They're going to snatch it. They're going to flip it. They're going to remix it. They're going to beat it up and break it down. And then guess what? They're going to come back with something 100 times better than I ever imagined. And I think that's one of the ways that we built, viral campaigns. We launched podcasts. We packed out live events with the community. We created video content that made people feel something. We didn't do this by coloring inside the lines at all. It's like going back to Netflix, it's like we did it, by setting fire to that damn coloring book and saying, let's make something that is going to move people, is going to inspire people. And I never do try to be the genius in the room. And in fact, Simon Sinek would say, be the idiot in the room. And that's really, what I was. And I wanted to be the fuel for my team and for my creative team. And we change the game in our space. And it's not about control. Creativity is not about control. It's about trust. It's about cadence. It's about rhythm. It's about creating a psychologically safe environment where you can bring ideas to the table. And you don't lead creatives, right? You build conditions where creativity leads.
I love that. And it was a safe space, right? There's open for failure because you came in saying every day, this is probably a horrible idea, and forgive me because I'm the idiot in the room, but in an honest, genuine way that created space for people to say, oh, okay, from the top down, this is our culture and this is okay. I love that, man. Great example. Let's jump on to the 3 tools. Three tools, right? So 3 tools to spark relentless creativity here. And the first tool is called the Autonomy Activation Protocol. Autonomy Activation Protocol. And this is actually inspired by Dan Pink in his book Drive, with a little Carol Dweck from Mind Sweat sprinkled in as well, right? So what's this all about? People do their best creative work when they have ownership over what they do and how, when, and why they do it. Autonomy. So how it works. 1, define the what, then give freedom on the how. Set clear outcomes or objectives, right? And I think of this as Brene Brown would say, paint done. Paint done for them so that the individual has clarity on the goal of the task. When they understand the goal, let the individual choose the tools, choose the format, choose the process, and just empower them with complete control and choice. And this will seriously boost their engagement and creative confidence if they're not worried that they have to do it in a certain way that you told them. Just give them that freedom. And then you need to provide space to reflect on autonomy wins. And so what that means is, like, when you have a team huddle or a one-on-one, go out of your way to explicitly highlight moments where autonomy led to surprising outcomes. Call it out, give praise and appreciation that they went solo, they made their own choices, and their solution was creative and unique, and it was positive. And then ask, what did you learn on your journey to solve X problem? Or what did you learn when you were working to deliver this outcome? This does such a great job of reinforcing a growth mindset, helping them tie back to, I made these choices, and actually I did have to learn a lot in order to get there. Just a great strategy, great tool number 1.
Let's get to tool number 2. And guess what, man? I'm going to double down on bad ideas. So tool 2 is build a bad ideas vault. Game-changing ideas are often born from bad ideas, man, or bad ones. And if you're brave enough to collect them, write them down. If you're old school, pen and paper, Google Doc them up, email them to yourself, create a document or a shared document in Google, a Slack channel, and dump in those wild, those weird, or in my language, those bad ideas without any judgment. And then, set time on your calendar, maybe like once a month, and pick one to prototype. Celebrate them, man. Celebrate the crazy, wild, outrageous ideas, because the worst idea today could be that billion-dollar pivot tomorrow.
Third tool is called the foresight flywheel. And so this is all about solving problems before they happen. This is extreme creativity when you're able to do that, as it requires you to imagine potential states based on what you know or what you don't know right now. Here's how it works, right? The concept is run a prevent the fire huddle. And get the team together and say, okay, we're gonna try and prevent a fire here, and ask the team, what's something that could go wrong in 30 days, in 60 days, or in 90 days, and then challenge the team to design a creative solution now before the fire starts, and then use a future headlines exercise. Right. So what does the headline say? Imagine we failed. What's the newspaper read? Right. What caused it? That'll really help people get their imagination flowing and trying to solve some problems before they ever get started. And then embed foresight into your postmortems. So when you're reviewing actually what went wrong in a situation, take it and say, well, what could we have spotted earlier? Right? Obviously, we missed something. So what did we miss? And how can we be attuned to that in the future? So foresight is proactive creativity. And you're not just solving problems. You're trying to design a world where they just don't occur, because your team is thinking multiple steps ahead.
Yeah. Well, let me drop the closing challenge for this week. Give your team or yourself a 24-hour challenge. One big idea, no filters, no perfection. Share it, ship it, and build some momentum through bold thinking.